Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about this recent news out of Nebraska. They were looking to change their electoral vote allocation from split to winner take all. So as of right now, this looks unlikely to happen for the upcoming election. But we're going to go through some of the background, why this is important, and what it could mean. So this article here is from NBC News, and it's going to be down below in the description along with all the other links. So Nebraska is one of two states along with Maine that splits their electoral votes for president. So what does this even mean? Well, many of you know there are 538 total votes in the Electoral College. A candidate has to win at least a majority of those electors. That's 270 to become elected president. Now, where do we get those electors from? This is a mini civics lesson, but every state in the union gets 2 electors, 1 for each of their U.S. senators. Then they also get 1 additional electoral vote for every U.S. House congressional district that they have. Every state has at least 1 of those districts, so the minimum you could have per state is 3. Washington, D.C. is not a state, so that's separate, but they also have 3 electoral votes. So the number of votes can change from time to time. Every 10 years, there's a reapportionment that happens after the census. Now, the number of electoral votes has not changed in a long time for both Nebraska and Maine. Nebraska has 5 electoral votes, 1 for each U.S. senator, plus its 3 congressional districts. Now, whoever wins the popular vote for the state at large gets 2 electoral votes. Those are from the U.S. senators. But if a candidate can win 1 of those congressional districts, then they will peel off an electoral vote. Now, Nebraska is a red state at large. A Democrat has not won the state for president since 1964, and this state has split their electoral vote since 1992. So let's take a look at these congressional districts. Here's a map that outlines the 3 districts, and we also did have redistricting since the last presidential election, so there have been some changes. Now, if you look here, the 3rd district is overwhelmingly Republican. Democrats have absolutely no chance in this district. Now, the 1st district is a little bit more competitive. According to the Cook PVI, it's an R+9, so still likely to be with the Republicans. Now, the 2nd congressional district, that covers Omaha. That has an even partisan lean, according to Cook. In the U.S. House, it is represented by Republican Don Bacon. But if we take a look at its presidential history, ever since they started splitting their vote in 1992, the Republican has won it, all the way up until 2008. Then we see Barack Obama actually carried this district narrowly. He got 50% to John McCain's 49. So even though this state is red, Obama carried 1 electoral vote to McCain's 4. After that, in 2012, Mitt Romney carried the district relatively comfortably. Even 4 years later, in 2016, Donald Trump won the district by low single digits. In the last election, though, this district trended toward the left. Even as Donald Trump carried the state at large by about 19 points, Biden was able to win this district by about 6. So again, he was able to snag an electoral vote. So if Nebraska switched back to winner take all, then all 5 of these electoral votes would go to the Republican. So of course, this is going to be politically motivated. Republicans going to be a fan, and Democrats not going to be a fan. But it's almost the exact inverse if we take a look at Maine. On a presidential level, Maine is a blue state, and they have split their electoral votes since back in 1972. Now, the last time a Republican carried this state was 1988. So ever since then, it's mostly a blue state. So they have 4 electoral votes, 1 fewer than Nebraska. That includes 2 congressional districts, so let's take a look at them. The 1st district is rated as a D+9. Republicans have almost no chance here. Now, the 2nd congressional district, it is a different story. That's the district that covers the northern part of the state. It's less densely populated, it's more working class, and it's rated as an R+6. So that is an opportunity here for the Republican candidate to win for president. Now, currently in the U.S. House, it's the opposite of Nebraska. They're represented by a moderate Democrat in Jared Golden. Now, if we look at the presidential history for that 2nd district, it did vote for the GOP candidate from 1972 to 88, but between 1992 and 2012, it voted blue. Obama last carried it by almost 10 points. However, in 2016, this time, Donald Trump actually was able to flip and win this district. He won it by a significant 10-point margin. The same thing happened in 2020. It was a little bit narrower, but Trump still won it by about 7. So theoretically, if Maine switched to winner take all, then the Republican would be shut out of an extra electoral vote, and the Democrats would win all 4. I haven't seen any recent discussion about changing this in Maine, but I would guess this would be motivated by Democrats, and Republicans would be opposed to it here. So it is interesting. We've got 1 red state and 1 blue state. Both have a portion of the state that wants to support the other party for president, and due to the electoral vote splitting, they're able to do so. But those are the only 2 states that actually do this, so they're kind of their own oddities. But given the recent news about Nebraska potentially going back to winner take all, why is this important for the upcoming election? Well, here's the 2020 map, and they're shaded according to the margins: safe or 10 or more points, all the way down to tilt, those are 1 point or less. Now keep in mind that since then, there has been redistricting, so some of the electoral votes have shifted even though the states are the same. So Biden starts out with 303 electoral votes to Trump's 235. The three narrowest states that went blue are Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. Those might be the easiest to flip back, and if they did, Trump would be at 272. It doesn't matter what else happens. One potential outcome for this upcoming election is Donald Trump is able to win back Georgia, Arizona, and also this time flip Nevada. Meanwhile, Joe Biden holds the former blue wall in the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If that happens, Joe Biden is at 270, Donald Trump is at 268, Biden still wins. However, if Nebraska switched to winner take all, then Biden no longer wins the 2nd congressional district. That would instead go to Trump, and then he's at 269 and Biden's at 269. So there's a tie, nobody wins the majority of 270. Now if Maine also switched to winner take all, it would cancel out what Nebraska does, as Biden is likely to win it. But if this scenario happens, and it's not completely unlikely, then there would be a contingent election for president. And what that means is the incoming U.S. House that would be elected this fall in 2024, they would be the ones breaking the tie. So all the congressional delegations in each state, they would get one vote. So they would then vote for who they want for president, and that's how you break a tie if nobody gets to 270. Meanwhile, the Senate would vote for the vice president. So we don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming U.S. House elections. But if it looks like how it looks today, here's the map that's based on how the states would vote. So there's a majority of Democrats or Republicans in 48 of the states. Only 2 have a tie. Minnesota has 4 U.S. House Democrats and 4 Republicans. North Carolina has 7 U.S. House Republicans and 7 Democrats. So those 2 would cancel each other out. All the other states are shaded accordingly. So in the end, that results in 26 Republican states, 22 Democratic states, and 2 ties. So if that unlikely scenario took place with a contingent election, in the U.S. House, it looks like they would support the Republican for president. It's a big if. There's a lot of things that would have to happen, but that's why that one electoral vote in Nebraska could be so pivotal. So I know it can be a little bit confusing, but that's kind of a crash course on why this is significant and how the process could play out. So it's up for debate whether it's a good idea for Nebraska and Maine to keep splitting their votes or switch to winner take all. I do have a recent community poll out, and right now it looks like keep splitting has a majority of support. Winner take all is at about a third. Got a lot of comments on this one. That's great. Right now the top comment is if no state is gerrymandered, then there should be split electoral votes. That does seem to make sense. Prior to all this, I always thought it was weird that those 2 states split their electoral votes. For this, I think it would be nice if all 50 states were on the same page. But if those states or every state did split their electoral votes, then you do have to pay a lot more attention to gerrymandering. If that got out of hand, then red and blue states would do everything they can to prevent the presidential opposition win any of their congressional districts and siphoning off any electoral votes. So that's kind of where things are at. I didn't want to go overboard on spending too much time on this, but that's a little bit about the Electoral College and Maine and Nebraska splitting their electoral votes. So let me know in the comments. Do you think Nebraska is ever going to change? Do you think Maine is ever going to change? What about other states? Do you think they're ever going to switch to splitting their electoral votes? And are you fascinated with this current process, or would you prefer a different system entirely? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.